Story 1. It started with the mist, thick, suffocating, and never-ending, a cold white that swallowed the world whole. We drove deeper and deeper into that forest, my husband, Mark, and I, eager for a weekend hunt. The kind of forest that seemed too quiet, too still. The kind of forest that felt wrong. Mark was excited. He loved the solitude, the thrill of the hunt. We were married just 3 years, but these trips were our chance to reconnect, away from the noise of the city. The GPS stopped working miles ago, but Mark insisted it was part of the adventure. "Trust me," he said, his voice steady even as the mist pressed against the windows like a living thing. We parked near an old dirt path framed by towering trees. I noticed strange carvings on the tree trunks, symbols I didn't recognize. Mark said they were hunting markers, but not the kind we used. They looked older, ancient even. I brushed it off. Maybe someone was messing around. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the forest darkened quickly. Shadows stretched like claws, and every sound felt amplified. At night, the woods are never really quiet. We set up camp near a small clearing. Mark went to scout while I unpacked. Then I heard it. The faintest whistle. A clear, eerie whistle, almost like calling my husband's name. Mark had disappeared for only a minute, but I called out to him and got no answer. Then, my blood ran cold. The whistle came again. But this time, it sounded exactly like Mark's voice. Not just a whistle, a call. His voice, whispering from the trees. I crawled closer to the tree line, my heart hammering. The mist thickened, swirling strangely, as if the forest was breathing, watching. Something was wrong. Mark's voice echoed again. "Here! Come here!" I strained my eyes but saw nothing except the heavy fog and those haunting carved marks. When dawn broke, what I found shook me to my core. Mark's clothes, hat, jacket, boots, hung neatly on a low branch near where he disappeared. No sign of him anywhere, just his clothes, empty and waiting. I screamed his name, my voice harsh against the whispering woods. Then I heard it. From above, high in the trees, a voice. Clear as day, Mark's voice, calling my name. I don't know how, but I kept climbing, pulling myself up the trunks, scrambling higher and higher into the thickest canopy where the mist clung like a ghost. The voice called again, "Help me! Please!" And then, the forest answered back. It wasn't Mark at all. We thought this would be just a quiet weekend away from everything. Mark and I, 2 people who loved the thrill of the hunt, but never imagined hunting would become a nightmare. We drove hours into the forest, the mist closing in like a wall. The deeper we went, the more the world felt like it disappeared behind us. As we walked the dense trails, Mark stopped, pointing at strange marks carved into the trees that we didn't put there. They looked like symbols from some ancient language, twisted and sharp. I felt uneasy but tried to laugh it off. When night fell, the forest seemed to come alive in a new, terrifying way. A soft whistle drifted through the trees, not the whistle we knew, but a faint echo of Mark's own voice, calling. I wanted to believe he was playing a trick, but my skin crawled. Then I saw his clothes hanging carefully on a branch, as if he had taken them off and vanished into thin air. But there was no Mark. The forest wasn't just hiding him, it was mocking us. His voice called from above the trees, not down on the ground where it should have been, like the forest itself had swallowed him whole and worn his skin as a costume. I never imagined a forest could do that. Could steal a man, leave only his clothes, and mimic his voice to lure you deeper into its cold, endless mist. Sometimes, late at night, when the wind blows just right, I swear I still hear him calling. From somewhere above the trees, from inside the forest that took my husband and never let him go. Story 2. I'll never forget the night we realized the forest wasn't just watching us, it was punishing us. My family and I, my wife Lisa, Our teenage son Jake and I had set up camp deep in an isolated hunting ground. It was supposed to be a simple weekend getaway, a chance to relax and enjoy the hunt together. The kind of things we did every fall. But nothing about this trip felt normal. The first day was quiet, almost too quiet. Jake was restless, eyes darting through the dense trees. Around dusk, he suddenly froze, staring at something I couldn't see. "Dad," Jake whispered, "there's a deer over there. But its eyes, they look human." I looked where he pointed and saw it, standing motionless between the tree trunks. It was massive, pure white, and its dark eyes caught the fading light. Something about its gaze made my skin crawl, yet Jake was frozen, unable to take his eyes off it. "Stay here," I said, gripping my rifle. Lisa stayed near the campfire, uneasy. I started after the deer, hoping to track it down before nightfall. Jake followed reluctantly. Then, the strange things began. Every shot I fired, all of them clean and true, seemed to hit none other than the missing hunters we'd heard whispers about in this forest. Families just like ours, who disappeared without a trace. One shot, and I could swear I heard a distant scream, a voice filled with terror and pain. Each time I raised my rifle, the forest answered with chilling echoes, sounds that weren't just animals, but human cries. Lisa's face grew paler with every passing minute, her fear palpable in the smoky glow of the campfire. Night fell hard and fast. The forest became a cage. Then, from the shadows, the deer appeared around our campfire. It wasn't just standing there, it was moving in a slow, deliberate circle. As it circled, its face began to change, twisting and morphing, shifting into a horrifying mimicry of someone we knew. First, it wore the face of a missing hunter, rumored to have vanished here years ago. Then, in turn, it became Jake, his terrified eyes wide and unblinking. Lisa's voice cracked as she whispered, "That deer, it's taking their faces." The creature's gaze shifted to me. I felt a cold dread creeping through my bones as its face morphed again, now wearing my own features. But there was no life behind those eyes, just rage. I tried to move, to speak, but my voice caught in my throat. The deer let out a low, guttural sound, something that felt like a warning. The curse of this forest was clear. It mirrored the hunters who sought to kill for sport, punishing them by taking their identities one by one. By dawn, the circle around the campfire was quiet, except for the soft rustling of leaves. All of us were still, trapped in an unspoken horror. We had disturbed something ancient and cruel. I can't explain what happened next, only that when the sun rose, the deer was gone. But the faces it wore had been etched into my memory forever, each one a warning that this cursed forest swallowed those who hunted without respect. And now, when I close my eyes, I see the deer circling still, waiting. Story 3. When we first found the cabin, it felt like a dream stretched thin by the cold forest air. Lisa and I, fresh from our wedding, wanted a quiet getaway, a refuge from the rush of the world. The road ended in a narrow trail, a hidden path leading deep into the woods where no one seemed to wander. The perfect place to escape. The cabin was old, wooden, and silent, sitting by a still lake that mirrored the towering pine trees. Inside, the dusty smell of forgotten years hung heavy. I found a small box tucked under the bed. Inside were dozens of black and white photographs. Each captured pairs of hunters, men and women, much like us. But it wasn't just any family photos. These pairs looked terrifyingly like us, right down to our smiles, our poses. Each photo was dated decades apart, but the faces were ours. The same eyes, the same laughter frozen in time. "What do you think this means?" Lisa whispered, tracing a finger over the faded prints. "Could be some kind of old hunting tradition," I said, though unease curled in my stomach. That night, after we'd built a fire and settled in, the woods grew strange. Every footstep we took around the cabin echoed behind us, soft but in sync. Lisa paused, turning sharply. "Did you hear that?" I nodded, heart thudding. The steps weren't ours. I crept to the window facing the lake and gasped. The water's surface reflected not one, but two sets of figures, Lisa and me, and behind us, a pair of identical shadows stood still, silent, holding rifles. They weren't moving, just watching. The reflected versions of us smiled with frozen, eerie grins. Their rifles rested casually by their sides, but their eyes held something chilling, soulless maybe, or cursed. For hours, we watched as the silent duplicates remained, unmoving. I tried to convince myself it was a trick of the mist, a reflection warped by the water's cold surface. But then the footsteps came inside the cabin, pacing us from room to room. Our breaths grew short, and Lisa clung to me, trembling. By dawn, light spilled over the lake. I rushed outside, heart pounding. The cabin was empty. No suitcases, no fire, no sign that anyone had stayed the night. Except for the photographs. Our faces stared up from the walls, now faded but unmistakable. And beneath the shimmering water, the reflections, two perfect pairs of us, forever frozen in the hunting stance. The echoes had taken us. Story 4. I never imagined a simple hunting trip with my kids would turn into a nightmare we'd never escape. My son Matt and my daughter Sarah were both teenagers, awkward at times but excited about this weekend. I thought it would be good for us, a chance to bond away from phones and screens. We drove out to an isolated forest, a place I'd hunted before but never this deep. When we stopped and unpacked our gear, the woods looked peaceful, almost too peaceful. We followed an old trail marked on my GPS, but soon the strangest thing happened. The compass in my hand began spinning wildly, making no sense no matter how I turned it. The GPS was useless too. It only showed one thing: a loop. The path circled endlessly, refusing to lead us out. At first, we thought it was a malfunction. We laughed nervously, unsure if the batteries had died or if we'd broken the devices. We pressed onward, but not long after, the nights began to play tricks on us. Each night, we'd set up camp in what we thought was a new spot. We made a small fire, cooked, and tried to sleep. The woods were quiet, save for the occasional rustle of leaves and distant calls of unseen creatures. But one morning, I woke to the fire still burning. Not just faint embers, but a full fire, like the one we built the night before, right beside our tent. I shook my head. "How is this possible?" I asked. Matt frowned, looking around. "Maybe we never moved last night?" The days became a haze. We were hungry. The food I packed dwindled quickly, and my stomach growled nonstop. Sarah started to look pale, and Matt's restless energy faded to exhaustion. We tried to hunt, 3 rifles resting against a tree, but something was off. Whenever Matt or Sarah fired a shot, we'd think we heard a yelp or a scream far away. It felt like the forest swallowed sound and spit back a twisted echo. The compass and GPS were relentless, circling, spinning, trapping us in an endless loop no matter where we walked. The woods stretched forever, a maze with no exit. Each night, as we huddled together near the fire, my fears grew. We weren't lost by chance. We were trapped, our minds blurred, memories of the last few days tangled into one terrifying sequence. Reality felt as fragile as the flickering flames. Then, silence took hold, until the sound of footsteps echoed, walking in perfect sync with ours. We stopped. The footsteps stopped. We moved. They moved. And it went on like that. I couldn't tell if it was real or the hunger playing tricks. Weeks passed, or maybe it was days, but time lost meaning. Our rifles never left our sides, but no game appeared. The forest watched, the trees looming like silent sentinels. One morning, when I thought we might finally find a way out, I heard voices. Rescue teams. I called out, weak and desperate. They found us. Or rather, they found the campsite. 3 rifles laid neatly side by side, and a perfect circle of footprints around the fire. but no sign of us. Just empty woods. No father, no Matt, no Sarah. Just the endless, silent forest and footprints that circled forever. Story 5. I thought this hunting trip with my kids would be the perfect chance to connect, to share some quiet time away from everything. Just me, my son Matt, my daughter Sarah, and the woods. What I didn't expect was how those woods would trap us forever. We parked at the edge of the forest early that morning. The sky was clear, but the air felt unusually heavy, like the forest was holding its breath. We unloaded the rifles, backpacks, and camping gear with excitement. Matt joked about being the best shot. Sarah teased him back, and for a moment, it felt like any other weekend. But the deeper we went, the more the forest seemed to change. That's when I noticed the compass in my hand spinning out of control. It swirled madly, never settling on one direction. I shook my head, convincing myself it was a malfunction. But the GPS wasn't any better. It showed nothing but a single looping path. No matter how we turned, we ended up where we started. "Dad, this can't be right," Matt said, squinting at the screen. "Are we going in circles?" I wanted to say no, wanted to keep the calm for them. But the truth settled like a stone in my gut. We were trapped in a loop. We pushed on, trying to ignore the strange pull of the forest. That first night, we picked a clearing and set up a small campfire, eating what little food we had left. But the morning brought a chilling surprise. The fire was still burning. Not smoldering embers, but a full flame, stubborn and bright. We hadn't been here before, or so we thought. Sarah's voice trembled. "It's like we never left. Each day we moved again, or tried to. But every night, the same thing happened. The fire waited for us, like the forest refused to let us go. Hunger crept in after several days, twisting our thoughts and blurring the line between what was real and what wasn't." Matt grew pale, barely speaking. Sarah's laughter faded into silence. I fought the panic building inside, but it was relentless. Our rifles were always close, but we never found anything to hunt. The woods were too quiet, too still, like the trees were holding secrets. At times, we thought we heard footsteps behind us, matching ours in pace. We'd stop, they'd stop, and though we searched, no one was ever there. It was like the forest was playing with us, mocking our every move, weeks blurred into a nightmare. One evening, a distant shout pierced through the silence. Voices, rescue teams. Hope surged inside me. We called back with everything we had left. When they finally reached our spot, they found only 3 rifles placed carefully beside a perfect circle of footprints. Footprints that traveled round and round, never breaking the endless loop in the earth. No sign of me, no sign of Matt, no sign of Sarah, just the woods. I don't know if this story will reach anyone. If it does, know this. If you ever walk into a forest and your compass spins like a whirlwind, if your GPS traps you in circles, run. Don't rest by the fire, and don't listen for footsteps that echo yours. Because some woods are endless, and some hunters never come home. Story 6. I grew up hearing stories about the family hunt, a ritual passed down through generations, spoken of in hushed voices around crackling fires. Every 10 years, the family gathered in the dense forest we called home to join the hunt. But this year was different. This year, I was old enough, the youngest son, to take part for the first time. The forest smelled old, like damp earth and forgotten memories. As we drove deeper, the trees thickened, their branches intertwining like the fingers of giants. I felt excitement and fear twisting in my chest. The hunt was not about chasing deer or rabbits as I'd imagined. When my grandfather explained the rules, his voice was grave. "This isn't just any hunt. This is our pact with the forest." "What pact?" I asked, trying not to show my nerves. He looked at me with tired eyes. "Every decade, one of us must be offered to the forest entity that guards this land. It's the price of our prosperity, the blood that binds us." I thought it was some old superstition, until I saw the faces of those who came before us. Photographs, worn and yellowed, lined the cabin walls. Each showed a family member standing in the forest, alive one moment, then missing the next, never to be seen again. The others didn't speak of the hunts they never returned from. But I was here now. My time had come. The family gathered in the clearing, their faces masks of resignation and silence. The trees watched, ancient and unyielding. I felt the weight of 1,000 eyes pressing into my soul. The ritual began with a drawing, a name from a worn leather bag. My name was called last. I swallowed hard, heart hammering so loud I thought it might burst. Before I could protest, panic surged through me. I ran, branches clawed at my face as I stumbled through the thick undergrowth. The forest was alive, twisting paths, shadows that moved and whispered. No matter where I ran, I found myself back where I started, the clearing. Time lost meaning. The same stones, the same smell, the same trees surrounded me like walls. I fell to my knees, breath ragged. The forest wasn't letting me go. When I looked up, the family stood around me, their faces unreadable. "The forest demands its due," my grandfather said softly. "You cannot escape the pact." A cold dread settled in my bones. I realized then that the forest did not just need sacrifice, it bound us all in its grasp, across generations and lifetimes. My name was drawn next. I understood what was coming. I could fight no longer. The forest whispered my name. Darkness closed in, and the forest claimed me as it had claimed my ancestors. For more stories like this, like, share, and subscribe Goofy Horror.